let's bring Bill. Now, Bill's my video guy. For years and years, Bill and I've done it. So if you saw any of our DVDs or you heard the audios and so on, Bill's been helping with me with that for, is it fair to say 10 years?
97, I think, is when we met.
Yeah, so that's even 11 years. Okay, so Bill's been helping me, but he's always standing behind the camera like Rocco is now, and he didn't get the course materials. He just learned from going there every time I did an event. He went there, and so he's going to tell you what happened to him if you guys are interested in learning that.
Yes.
Want to see what happened? All right. So he's going to take us through the basics, and we'll kind of go from there. Okay, so here's Bill. Everybody say, hello, Bill. Hello. Okay, great.
As Ted said, I've been involved with putting together his material for years, and that's basically how I learned. Just a little background on myself. I went to NYU Engineering School and got a job in aerospace engineering. I was a missile guidance engineer for General Electric, who sent me to Cape Canaveral. And then I got a job at Martin Marietta and worked on other missiles. And finally pursued another dream of mine, which was video production. And along the way, in '97 I think it was, I met Ted and learned about tax liens and deeds through him. It is not rocket science, that's true. It's actually very simple. In this state, there are two separate distinct auctions. There's explicitly a tax lien certificate auction, which if you don't pay your taxes, there's a tax lien certificate auction. In that, you're only buying the tax lien. You're only paying the taxes. You have no right to the property other than there's a lien on the property to get your money back plus interest. The first auction I went to was with Ted. He brought myself and some other people to an auction in Brevard County, which is the county I live in. And we went to the auction and I watched what was going on. And that at that time, most counties here have gone to online auctions. Back then it was all live auctions. And it's a bid down process which starts at 18%, and then the minimum amount you're willing to accept as interest is bid down to whatever level you're going to accept. I watched what was going on, and then I went home, and online you could research the property. So I went and looked at several dozen properties that I believed were going to come up for auction the next day. So the next day I go to the auction and I've got money. I went to the treasurer's office, put down my deposit, and I was nervous. It was kind of funny because I'd been to video auctions. I spent the part of that camera that's running back there, I bought at an auction and plunked down $11,000, didn't think anything of it. I'd gone to another auction and bought some video decks and plunked down $20,000, didn't think anything of it. But I was excited about it because they were worth a lot more than $20,000. But at this auction, I was bidding on something where the tax lien was $670. And I was nervous. I was sitting there, I got butterflies in my stomach. I'm all nervous about bidding $670 for something that is like buying a CD. That's how secure it is. And anyhow, I go there and somebody bids 18%. It was an empty lot, and I saw that they were going for about 16%. So rather than bid 17, let somebody else bid 16, I jumped right to 16. There were no other bidders. I got it, and the butterflies went away. All right. To end that story, I got paid back something like 9 months later. I got my money back in 16%. All right. I didn't make any money on that because that was kind of a test to see how the whole thing worked. In learning from Ted's material, I saw that tax deeds were a much more interesting way to go. You can make a lot more money on that because there you go in and you can get something for 25, 35%. Ted's directions, suggestion to me, he didn't force me to do it, but he said don't pay more than 30%. As a side note, he also will tell you that you can, if it's something that's difficult for you to manage and have access to, then you should bid lower. And if it's your neighbor's lot or neighboring lot, then maybe you go a little more than 30%. So you got to factor in the kinds of things Bob was talking about, is what other costs do you have involved in dealing with the property. And if it's right next door to you, it's obviously very easy to deal with. So the next auction I went to was a tax deed auction. The first tax deed auction I went to, I didn't buy anything because I went and researched a whole bunch of property. I was there prepared to buy. I had a pocket full of money. There were two counties I was bidding in. One was Orange County, which is where Orlando is, and the other is Brevard County, which is the county I live in. Have easy access to both of them. And so what I did is I researched properties in the county that I lived in and found, I don't know, maybe 5 that I would consider. And anyhow, none of them met they all went above the price that Ted said I should stop at, and so I didn't get anything. But a couple of times later, I wound up finding a property, and at the time, the market was beginning to shoot up. I guess you all are aware what happened in Florida. Florida kind of led the nation in some of this stuff, but it did a big, big run up starting around 2001, 2002, which is the time frame. I think I bought this one in 2000, but it was just beginning to go up. So things were getting bid up pretty high. The particular lot I found had a value, according to the tax appraiser and what research I could do, I looked at what neighboring properties were selling for. It would range from 11.5 to 13. Based on this neighborhood, I figured it was worth about 12.5. And the tax appraiser had a fair market value of $9,000. Well, at the auction, back taxes were something like $1,400, and got bid up to 24, which was my number. And that happened pretty quickly. And there was no, we just went right up to 24. And I didn't expect it to stop there. I was prepared to go to about 3,000. And well, I got it. And in that county, what you had to do at that time was you had to pay for it right after the auction. Well, I didn't have any money with me, but I had a bank nearby, so I knew I had about an hour from the time I bought it to the time where they'd say, all right, you didn't pay for it, now we gotta. So I go to the bank and I got $2,400, and I go up to the window where you're supposed to pay, and they say, all right, that's I've got the number here, it's like $2,436, because I forgot about dock stamps, all right? I didn't know all the rules. I should have, but, well, it was about $36 more. And I almost didn't have it. I almost didn't. I was scrambling in my wallet, but anyhow, I got it. And then what was I going to do with it? I talked to Ted about it, and he said, well, you can just sell it, or you can get a quiet title. I could have sold it without getting a quiet title to somebody else who was going to deal with that issue. But I figured, well, I'll try and learn the whole process. And so I went to an attorney who would help me with something else. And I asked him what it would take to do that. And he said he would handle the sale and getting the quiet title. I think he wanted $600 to do that. So I went through that process, and it actually is pretty simple. And I probably could have done it myself. It's just a matter of getting it turns out the fellow who owned it before was deceased, and it was getting his executor to sign a quitclaim deed. We needed a death certificate to do that, and sadly my attorney didn't know how to get it because he didn't have the guy's social security number. And a little hint here that this may be useful to somebody who's trying to get these things settled. Not all attorneys are really good at doing quiet titles. I called a private investigator acquaintance of mine. I said, well, how do I handle this? How do I find this guy's social security number? And he said, well, I can't help you because I work for another attorney, but let me get my wife to call you. I called her, or she called me, I don't remember which, and it took all of about 5 minutes, and she gave me the guy's social security number. So a little hint there is there may be a value in going to private investigators to find some kinds of information. It might be a lot cheaper than an attorney, and they know stuff we don't know. I mean, they knew where to go. She knew exactly where to go to find that information. So anyhow, I got a quiet title. Actually, before I got the quiet title, I got a phone call from a guy. He said, hey, I understand you own this lot. I'd like to buy it from you. I'll offer you $3,500. And I said, no, you're an investor. I know that because we had established that in the conversation. I said, you know as well as I paid $2,400 for it, and that it's worth over $9,000. And he said, yeah, and we talked about it a little bit, and he pointed out something I didn't think about when I bought it. I should have, because I did look at it and I did walk around it. I did walk on it. I know you're not supposed to do that, but I did. And there was a low spot. It needed some fill. And we figured it was about $2,500, $3,000 worth of fill. So the lot at full retail value with the fill would have been about 12.5. It was really worth about 9. And I said, we just threw those numbers out there, and I said, well, how about 6? You get a $3,000 discount, and I'll make $3,000. Everybody's happy. And that was the deal. And I got a quiet title and then sold it to him for 6. So that was pretty straightforward. It was very easy. And incidentally, at that auction, I had bid on other property too, and I think one of them I had run up to about $25,000 before I hit the break point that Ted said don't go beyond. And there were no butterflies. The point is, you guys have an opportunity here that I had because Ted held my hand the first time, and I could ask whatever questions I had to resolve anything that I was uncertain about. And you got that same opportunity here. It's an opportunity that you shouldn't miss. This is my steps to success. First thing I did was look to places where it was easy for me to buy and sell. And so I looked in Brevard County and Orange County, which was the two counties closest to me. I took the list probably about a week before the auction. I'd look at the list and I narrowed it down to things that I could afford. Pretty much eliminated anything above, even if I could afford it, and I would know that it would get bid up above the minimum bid. So I kept my bracket down to things in my affordable range. Then I also looked at things that I could sell quickly. I didn't want to have anything that I would have to sit on, some kind of obscure piece of property that was difficult to sell, and also have a plan to sell it. The first time I didn't have a plan. That first property I was just talking about, after that I realized I better think about this ahead of time, because if I can't sell it quickly, where am I? And then I would go through, this is all a while before the auction, a week or so before the auction. I'd come up with the full value of the property. So I said, okay, if in an ideal world, that other lot was worth $12,500, that was the full value. And at that time, I haven't looked at it, so all I can do is go by the paperwork that's on the internet. And in Orange County and Brevard County, virtually everything that you need to know in advance is available on the internet now. Back when I did it, it wasn't. You had to go to the county office and actually look through. They'd have folders. Did you get into that, Bob, yet? There'd be all kinds of information you can get as far as who was notified, was everybody notified, what was due on the property, sometimes any other assessments that might be on it. All that in the counties I work in, have looked in, is available on the internet now, which is very useful. Saves a lot of time. And so I'd assessed the full value of the property, so I knew that that other lot I was looking at was worth $12,500. Also, any additional costs, which I know now I've got to pay dock stamps when I need the extra $36 when I pay $2,400. Sometimes there's other liens, municipal liens or taxes pending, and then determine a quick sale price. If you sell it for 75% of its full value, you should be pretty good at making a quick sale. Anybody who doesn't want to buy something at a 25% discount kind of is missing the boat. So anyhow, those are the things I look at prior to the sale, and that will allow me to come up with what my maximum bid is prior to looking at the property. So in this case, I would have said that my maximum bid was perhaps $4,000 on that other lot. And I don't do a whole lot more research before the auction because, as you're probably aware, a lot of things get redeemed just before the auction. You'll see that on the list that's here. They're well over half are likely to get redeemed. So to go run around and look at all these things when there's only going to be, you're wasting your time if they're not going to have a lot out there. So a couple of days before the auction, I look at the list again, and again, all of this is now online in the two counties, in this county too. I believe everything is online. So you can look at all the list before the auction, see what's available. First time I went with Ted to Jacksonville, we go up to the office, wherever that is in the county office, and there was a page on a bulletin board with lines through the ones that were redeemed. And now, fortunately, that's online, and they usually keep that pretty well up to date. So what I'll do is, of the ones that I have selected earlier, I'll see which ones are still available, and I'll plot my route to go look at all these properties. And in Brevard County, unfortunately, it's a big, long county. It's like 72 miles long. So what I'll do is, start at the top and work my way down, come back home. I live in the middle. So I'll then go and look at everything. And Ted will not say this, but I will. I get out of my car and I walk around and I look through the windows, especially in abandoned places, because I want to know how bad it looks. And I know now to look for low spots and consider what what issues there may be.
It's okay to say that you're trespassing, okay?
It's okay. I did it,
it's
but
okay
nobody
to say
else should
that.
do it, right?
Because we're capturing this on video. It'd be good to say that you are trespassing at that point in time, okay? Okay, good.
Yeah. But nobody else.
It's called
nobody
CYA.
else should do that. And take a picture, because when you're there, if you've got a half a dozen that you looked at, especially if you're doing it every month or every week, as Bob sometimes does, you can get clouded in your head as to which house you're thinking about, and you might wind up thinking about the wrong one. So now within the digital world, it's pretty easy to have a picture associated with it. Physically staple it to your paperwork so that you've got the picture there when you're thinking about it and bidding and trying to figure out what you're bidding on. You know what you're looking at. And modify costs based on what you see there. If you see a sagging roof, you've got a real problem because you don't know what kind of water damage might be in the house. If you see any kind of other damage, low areas, you might have a house that you have to have torn down. It's not necessarily something, if you find one that's burned out and there's $7,000 in taxes due, and you look at the house and you say, my goodness, the house is worth nothing, and it's got an appraisal, a tax appraisal of $150,000. Maybe the lot's worth $25,000 and it's only going to cost you $4,000 to take the house away, so you may still be a good bet, a good buy at whatever they're asking. You might get it for the minimum. There might not be anybody else bidding. I'm not afraid of that kind of stuff, as long as you really know what your real costs are. Clearly the next step is to bid. If you don't bid, you aren't getting it. And right after you get it, you should start thinking about getting it sold, and that's what Ted will tell you, is you got to move it quickly, because the longer you sit on that, the money's not making anything when the government's got it. So you don't get paid till you sell. I know a lot more about selling quickly now than I did when I bought that first lot. My advice to being successful, do it.
Let's visualize you're in the same situation, and you're going to look at your assessed value and find out the assessment is somewhere between $9,000 and $12,000, and you're going to look at the bidding. From here on, you already have the basics of the tax liens and deed business, so we know that you know that. Your success is going to come from looking at this thing like Bill did, and that's you need to back yourself up. The only way you're going to get paid on this thing is to do what? Is to sell it, right? Okay, so if you don't do anything else, you need to write on your paper, exit strategy. And so you always have to know what your exit strategy is before you bid. Now, a lot of people are going to go there and they're going to bid like hell, and they don't have a clue on what they're going to do with it. So don't bid unless you know what you're going to do. All right, now, the selling process can take months if you want it to, or it can take days if you want it to. So you want to be in the position where it takes days so that you can keep moving. Now, if you've already got a lot of money, you can discount what I'm saying right now, because you can say, I'm going to take my time, I'm going to wait till the market comes back, whatever. So that can be a strategy. But right now, Bill has got a property here. The approximate value is about $12,000. Okay, now, what you want to do is you want to get that out into the marketplace absolutely as quickly as possible. All right, now it doesn't mean that it's a bad property, a good property, or whatever. You need to get it on the market, and you need to think about what your price is going to be. In his case, he sold it for $6,000, made himself a profit. He's happy with all that. You're going to be happy with all that, because, I mean, how much effort did he have? He drove over there that day, looked at it, looked at the property, whatever. So he made probably for 2 days' work $3,600. Get rich? No, I don't think so. But are there thousands of those? Okay, so this is something you can multiply yourself. You can multiply and be able to do a lot of them. But you'll never multiply yourself unless you think of the exit strategy. So if you're not thinking about that, this is where you have to become aggressive. I didn't say assertive. I didn't say timid. I said what? Aggressive. Okay, so you need to say, what is it going to cost me to put this in the newspaper? So for God's sake, don't wait till you go to a tax sale to say, oh, I wonder how I make a newspaper ad to sell it. How about you make the newspaper ad now? Okay, what are all the avenues to sell it? Could you be trying to sell on eBay? Could you be trying to do it on Craigslist? Could you be trying to put flyers in the neighborhood? What are all the ways to sell a property? And if you don't have 20, you're going to be sitting here on this property, because I don't know who's going to buy it. But you know, 3, 7, maybe even 10% of the houses are sold just by a for sale sign in the front lawn. People say, oh, I'm going to go down Saturday and get a for sale sign. For God's sake, get the for sale sign before you go. You know you're going to have a for sale, so get a for sale sign. Get your ad together. Start thinking about the exit strategy. And what everybody else around you is going to say, oh my God, you're aggressive. Well, whose money is this? Yes. Okay, so from now on, I don't care how much technical BS you know. I want to know how well you can sell it. If you can't sell it, you're out. You're SOL. Yeah, you are not going to make any money in this business because you're going to be pussyfooting around trying to get this thing sold. And when someone walks in and wants to give you money, for God's sake, you don't have to say, well, now I think I'll get an attorney and I'll get a real estate agent and do all. If you're going to do all that, for God's sake, do it now. Because now when they don't have any money coming in and you're under no pressure, guess what? You can bargain for the best price. So looking at what he did there is he's okay because he's got a good value. And that's what you're going to find on these vacant land. You're going to find a lot of that. The only reason they're letting it go is because they don't have an exit strategy. So the important thing that I always want to hear you say is I want to hear you tell me what your exit strategy is. Don't tell me how smart buy you are. Don't tell me all about the property. Just tell me about the exit strategy. That's all I ever want to hear, because when will you get paid? Okay, I'm guarantee you it's your weakest link. It's the link it's the muscle that you got to build. When you see me doing this, that's what I'm saying. What's that? You're building that muscle. If you're not building your sales muscle, you're in trouble, and that's where everybody has trouble. Limit the list. The list is always too big. There's too much in this business. It's like a fire hose. All this stuff is coming at you. You got so much. There's so much opportunity, but you only need this much. Just so much. A vegetillion. That's the smallest piece of land you can make. A vegetillion goes on your finger. It's so small. You only need a little bit. If you just get that little bit, you're going to do fine. Okay, so let's look what he did. So he's going to limit it to what he can afford. Now, in this case, he was going to spend. He had up to $25,000. So don't go look at things that are going to cost. Minimum bid $50,000. What's the sense? Are you going to get it? It's not going to happen. So limit it to what you can do. Start small and then grow it. And like Bob, when we talked to him for a few minutes, he's going to tell you he's got 100 of these things. So he's got small ones, big ones, whatever. And he's going to have times he can't invest because he's got all his money invested. He's got to wait till something pays. Same thing's going to happen to you. I don't care how much money you got. Same thing happens to Donald Trump. You get to a point he doesn't have any more money. You got to stop. Wait to get some stuff sold. So you want to look at this list. This list doesn't look like a very important list, but you should be writing it down. Okay, look where it's easy. Is that your hometown? Yes or yes? Okay, you're going to buy something you can't afford? Okay, that's why America's upside down right now. Everybody bought out what they couldn't afford, right? Okay, limit to what you can sell quickly and have a plan. So that's just one word or two words. Exit strategy. If you don't have an exit strategy, you don't belong at the sale. You do not belong at the sale if you don't have an exit strategy. Now, here the assessment. Who's going to give the assessments on these properties? Okay. Can county assessments be different in each county? Yes. Could they be different in each township? Yes. Boy, be careful there and pay attention to those. Okay. Okay. Additional costs. All right. Now, additional costs can cover a lot of things. One of the things nobody covers is the travel back and forth. So give that some thought. So you're going to eliminate that because you're just going to do your own town, right? Okay. He put the doc stamps. Every county is going to charge you some kind of tax. That's a documentary transfer tax. Every county is going to have that. So when you go to pay for something, just know there's going to be that additional little fee. Now, could they say, we're going to charge you a filing fee? I mean, don't go with the exact amount you paid for, is my point. You're going to get there with a $2,400. They say, well, you need $60 for this and $70 for that, and now you're not going to make your deal, are you? Determining the quick sale price, you always know, no matter what market you're in, if you buy something for 10 cents on the dollar, you usually can sell it for 50 cents or 40 cents on the dollar relatively quickly. So don't get greedy and say, look, I got a $12,000 property that I'm going to get rid of. If I get a $12,000 property, I'm going to do just what Bill did. What am I going to try and sell for? Well, we just gave you the numbers. We were just up there on the board. What am I going to? I'm not going to try and get 10. I'm going to, come on, first lesson of the day, buy low, sell low. Okay, well, reverse that slide. Go back to what he did. Let's look. 5 or 6, that's all you're going to get, right? Okay, are you happy with that? Yes. Okay, so you got 6,000, you put 2,400 in, it's $3,600 a good day's pay. Yes. Okay, well, that's all you deserve for that day. Can you do that and grow that into buying a $60,000 property? Okay, yes, you can, but just make a profit. A profit is always a profit. Even if it's $1, make the damn profit. Don't sit there trying to get 12,000 because you know you're going to be 2 years from now? Still trying to get 12,000. So let's get two or three of these little deals under our belt. Okay. So he's giving you a lot of powerful stuff here, which he learned. Yeah, I remember he's doing his video business. He's out taking pictures of beautiful babes and boats and all this stuff because he works for Sea Ray all the time. You know, they got their boats going around with all those girls that probably don't even know how to turn it on, right?
No, they don't, but they look good.
They look good. So the point is, you need to think about your exit strategy constantly. From here on, every day you're saying, what the hell would I do if I got one? What would I do if I got one? What would I do if I got one? And there isn't one way to sell. There's how many ways to sell? 20. If you don't know 20, you're in trouble. You're in trouble right now. So you need to start studying that right now. 20 ways to sell that property. And try all 20 of them at the same time. Don't try one, then try the other. Do all 20 at the same time. Everything happens at the same time. Okay, your ads go in the newspapers, your ads go on Craigslist, you're on eBay, you're doing everything. You're calling all your friends, you're going to the real estate club. Everything that you can possibly think of, you have to do to get rid of that property. Now, if you're smart, and I'll give you an example, if you're smart, every time someone calls on that property, and this is the most important thing I'll tell you this afternoon, it's coming right now, okay, is every time someone calls on a property, you'll write down their name, their address, their telephone number, and their email, and what their wife's name is, and what their kid's name is. Okay, what am I doing? I'm building a buyer's list, right? Okay, because you don't know who's doing this. Okay, so I have people that I've worked with for well over 20 years in South Florida, which is the most competitive market in the United States. Okay, they have 2,000 names on their buyer's list. So if they made a deal today on a property, what do they do when they go home tonight? They email everybody and fax everybody the whole deal. What do you think happens the next day? Well, sometimes they'll have a $100,000 property that they bought for $20,000. And sometimes they bought, is $100,000, they bought it for 20. Sometimes someone will say, I'll give you $25,000 tomorrow morning. Do you think they sell it? Because overnight they made how much money? Okay, what do you care as long as you made money? It's okay for the other guy to make some money, but do it fast. Okay? You cannot get rich slow. You got to try and do it fast. And it's still going to take you a long time, okay? Okay, so you want a lot of ways to do that. And if someone calls you up on the phone and wants to know information about your property, says, sir, can I have your name and address and telephone number? Now, you're not going to like what I'm going to say right now. And that person will say, no, I don't want to give you any information. Just hang the phone up. Don't say goodbye. Just hang the phone up. It'll ring again. And you say, oh, we must have got disconnected. What was your name and address again? The guy said, I'm not going to give it to you. Just hang up again. They'll get it. They'll get it. Okay, just forget them. Because if they won't give you any information, why are you guys, who's in the information business here? Okay, you're in the information business? I don't think so. You are? I thought you were in the mobile home business.
I am.
Okay.
I've got databases of mobile home buyers, mobile home sellers, tenants.
Okay, but you're in the marketing business. You're not in the information business. I'm the only one in the room that's in the information business. That's all I ever sold you was information. Isn't that true? Yeah. What are you doing here? Getting information, right? Okay, I'm in the information business. You're in the marketing business. What business are you in?
Marketing.
Okay, you're damn sure not in the information business. Okay, what happens to you? How much did you make on the information last year? Zip. What you made money on was because you're in the marketing. You know how to market your properties. Okay, so you can't have too many names, addresses, and phone numbers. Everybody got that? Okay, so if you got 2,000, believe me, you'll sell your properties like that. Is that how you want to sell them? Okay, now you don't have to tell everybody how you bought them. Now can you buy 2 and 3 and 5 at a time? Sell 5 at a time, you make $5,000 on each one of them. That's a good day's pay. Okay, so basically you don't want to take too long to do this stuff, but you need to have a plan. So your plan is always what's your exit strategy. So he determined his maximum bid. So you guys are going to bid up to what price? My rule is I won't bid over 30%, but I really want to get them for 20. Now, did I say you couldn't get them for less than that? It's okay, you can get them for less than that. I'm saying my maximum bid is what? And I really have to be in love with that baby to bid that much money, okay? Okay, so last week we bought one in West Palm Beach. I said to the guy, I'll bid a maximum of 20,000. So you start the bidding. The bidding started at 7,000 on the property. You're not allowed, using my money, you're not allowed to go any more than $100 at a time. They did 95 back and forth bids. 95. You know how agonizing that is? You don't yet, but when you go to an auction, you're going to find out that's agonizing. You went up $100 at a time, and you ended up with the property at 17.5. So you got 17.5, but we think it's worth, the county says it's worth 120. I think it's worth about 80. Okay, the house across the street's worth 100, for sale for 150. So we'll probably get 47 or 40,000 bucks or something like that. Are we going to get rich in that one deal? But all I want to do is get rid of it. I just get rid of it. Okay, I don't get paid for holding property. Is there a reason we're doing this class today? Why didn't we do this class last week? Because a lot of property is going to get redeemed at the last minute, right? So bid at the auction. It's easy. Start enacting a sales plan. Okay, where did I enact my sales plan? Before I started is where I did it, okay? Okay, and sell it quickly. Okay, do it. Okay, that's good. Okay, so any other words of wisdom before you finish?
Well, yeah, there was one other thing I didn't mention. When I saw that, when I looked at the lot that I did, the first lot I bought, I happened to notice a for sale sign laying on the ground. And this is, well, actually, I noticed it after I bought the lot. And I looked at it, and it had a real estate agent's number on it. And I called it, and I said, what's the deal on this lot? He said, oh, and they shuffled through something or clicked and whatever and came in. "Oh, that's for sale for $3,500. And I said, "Okay, well, thank you. I just was curious." The point there is, with having gotten a quiet title on it and the lawyer that helped me, I wound up paying effectively $3,000 for that lot. And I could have gotten it for $3,500 with a warranty deed, and could have made the same sale that I did for $6,000 within probably a couple of weeks. And yeah, I wouldn't have made quite as much, but I could have done the sale months earlier. So there may be some other things to look at. You know, the real estate agent sign was something I missed and didn't even think about.
Who cares how you sell as long as you sell it, right? And do it quickly. Okay, so let's reward Bill for helping us out here, which was really good. That was great.
One of the things that has gotten much easier when it comes to researching tax lien and tax deed sales is the fact that so much information is available online now. And just to go through an exercise in how to research online, we've selected a tax sale or two in Brevard County, Florida. So in this case, we've typed in Brevard County tax deed sale, and we hit search, and the very first thing that comes up is the website that deals with tax sales. So we'll click on that, and it comes up to the Clerk of Court's website, where in Florida it's the Clerk of Court that administers the tax deed auctions. And it so happens that this page brings up a listing that I'm not particularly interested in, so we'll back up one link here and go into the area that has the search page for the tax sales that we're looking for. And we're going to start with a sale that has recently occurred. And so we'll select it, and that would be this one right here. And go down here and search records. And it brings up a listing of properties that have actually already been sold. And as you go through here, some of the properties have been sold, some of them redeemed prior to the tax sale. And this is one of them that we're interested in. And you click on it, it brings up a number of different options here. And let's just go through some of them just to see what information is available online about this particular property. And so if we click on this link here, it brings up the property appraisers page that says approximately what the property is worth. So it gives it a market value of $150,000 as of 2007. It says it's a quarter-acre property. It sold in 1991 for $88,300. So let's back up and let's try this one. And we see that they've done a title search on the property. And the title search gives a legal description of the property with the street address, who the owners of the property were, and then for liens it says see Schedule A. So we're going to have to scroll down. And for Schedule A, it shows that there's a number of liens on the property. There's a City of Palm Bay, a code enforcement lien, another City of Palm Bay, another code enforcement lien, two more City of Palm Bay liens. So that will tell you right there that there's probably some kind of problem with this property if there's code enforcement liens against it. And then here's a warranty deed showing the last transfer of ownership of this property. Okay, let's go back and let's try some other things here. Tax collector certification. And basically that's showing the amounts that were due on the tax lien on the property prior to the tax sale. Let's go down here to certified mail. And we can see that certified mail was sent. This was sent to the City of Palm Bay, and that was done because there were city liens against the property. And the card was signed, so that certified mail was delivered. You can see more certified mail that was returned to sender. So these were sent to the owners of record of the property, and both of them returned unable to forward is what it says. And so we see that the only entity that received notice actually and signed for it was the city of Palm Bay. But the owners themselves apparently are long gone and can't be found. In some cases, you have to have the county sheriff actually serve notice to the property owner or post a notice on the property. And so these are just notices from the sheriff showing what they have done with this property. And here they say that they've posted the property. So they went out and actually put a notice on the house showing that there was a tax sale that was coming up on that property. So you can see there's information on code enforcement liens. Oh, look at this. Amount due $43,750 as of December 18th, 2008. Fines accruing at $50 per day. And here's another one, $156,000 in liens against the property, accruing at $200 per day. So there's 2 code enforcement liens, 4 nuisance liens. And so those are pretty stiff liens against a piece of property, huh? That's a lot of money due. What I'm demonstrating here is that you have a lot of opportunities to find out a great deal about this particular property. And let's go back to this detail page and actually go to the property appraisers page to get even further information about this piece of property. So here you have the parcel ID number, and you have all kind of clickable links on here. And let's just go to this one first, the use code. And it says that it's residential improvement, and look in bright red letters here, capitalized, not suitable for occupancy. Okay, so we know that we've got some problems with this property. There's some big nuisance liens against it, and it's not suitable for occupancy. So let's scroll on down here. So once again, you got the owner's name, you have their mailing address, which is in England, so they're nowhere to be found. We have a market value of $42,000, and gee, didn't we have about almost $200,000 worth of liens against that property, nuisance liens? It's not looking so good, huh? And here's some sales information. In 1991, they paid $88,300 for that piece of property, and it was shown as being an improved piece of land at that point in time. A year prior, it was sold under warranty deed as a piece of vacant land for $8,000. So that'll give you an idea of when the house was built on it, somewhere around 1990, 1991. So you think that's a fairly new house. It should be in good condition, and we're going to find out later on what condition it's actually in. Down here you got building information, year built 1990, so our guess was correct on that, and all kind of codes on that we really don't need to dig into here. If you really wanted all the details of roof material and roof type and all that, you could click on it. So base area of the property is 1,734 square feet and another 441 square feet in garage and a little bit in porch area. So I'll give you an idea of the size of the house. Now let's scroll back up, and I purposely skipped past this originally. This is the map information. So we click on that link, and it brings up a page that shows where this property is. And you see some of the street names, and so you can zoom in and out and determine exactly where this property is in the county. And another thing that you can do, most of these websites across the country give you the option of pulling up the aerial photography. So in this case, you can click on aerial here and click on change, and it brings up an overhead view of the area. And so that gives you a chance to actually look at this house. And if you look at the homes around it, they have real neat sharp edges to them. And you look at the roof of this one, and it looks kind of rough. It doesn't look the same as the others. So it looks like there may be some real problems with this house. And we'll get out there and look at it on the ground and we'll know for sure. But you know, once again, we've learned a great deal about this property just sitting here at the computer. Haven't had to go to the courthouse. We haven't had to spend a bunch of gasoline driving around looking. We already know that this may or may not be a property that we'd be interested in. There's another tool that some of you may not even know about, and it comes courtesy of Google as well. And it's called Google Maps. And Google Maps actually enables you to drive down the street, basically, take a virtual drive-by of a property. Not every property in the United States is available right now, but a lot of them are. And I've already keyed in the address of this one and have it ready to go. And you can click on Street View, and it actually brings up a picture of the house. And then you can manipulate that image around. And you can see, looking at this image, you know, it looks like the garage door is all faded and not in good condition. And the roof just looks pretty ragged here. Now, we don't know the date that this image was taken, but we know that this house just doesn't quite look right. And you can pan around and see other properties in the neighborhood, and you know, the properties adjacent to it look pretty nice, huh? You know, they're well maintained. It looks like just a decent suburban neighborhood. And Google Maps actually lets you, if you click on these arrows, basically you can drive down the street and just see the neighborhood. So it's a great tool, but keep in mind that these pictures were all taken on a certain date and that things may change over time. And so do not ever use this as a substitute for physically going out and looking at a property that you want to bid on. You may use it as a tool to eliminate properties and maybe cut out a great deal of driving so that you're not having to look at every property on the list. You might gather enough information from this to say, oh, that house is in bad shape, I'm not even going to bother to look at it. We're in a nice neighborhood right now. As you look around, you can see these houses probably sell in the $100,000 to $150,000 range in today's market. It looks like a nice place to live, and there's a property in the tax sale right here, so let's take a look at it. Aha, a little bit different, huh? This is a really good reason is why you always want to look at the properties before you make an offer. Whether it's a foreclosure or a tax sale, you always want to look at the property. You can see this is not a livable house. The roof is caved in, the particle board and the shingles, the particle board's melted away, the shingles are gone. This looks like something that needs to be bulldozed. So would you be willing to pay the $14,000 minimum bid at the tax sale for this property? I wouldn't. You can match up this file number with the list that you have of the properties that are going to be in the tax sale. So let's leaf back to the back end of the pile here and get some of the information that we're interested in. So this is the property appraiser's property research page, and it gives the site address for this property. So it does have a street address. That does not necessarily mean there's a house on it, but it does have an address. Here's the owner name, and we see that the owner has a New York address, so it is not a locally owned piece of property. If we go down here further, we can see that it's a 2.5 acre parcel, and as of 2007, it had a market value of $95,000, which part of the research we need to do is to see what it's worth now, because certainly that market value has changed in 2 years' time. Going further down here, we can see the references to the past deeds on the property. So in 2003, this property sold for $52,900. Here's the book and page number where you can find that information. There's also a copy in the files here, and it's shown as being vacant land. Here's a warranty deed on the property, showing where the property changed hands. Here's the research file, the title search, and it shows the current property owner, It shows the warranty deed and the book and page number, and it shows that there's no liens currently against the property as of this date. Here's a list of all the people who were notified, and then now we get into the certified mail files here. Here's one that was returned not deliverable. 2 more, same thing. 2 more, same thing. And 2 more. And 2 more. So you can see a lot of certified letters were sent out, and all of them were returned not deliverable. So that would indicate that nobody knows or cares about this tax sale, and it's probably not going to redeem prior to the date of the tax sale. That's just a guess, but that's frequently what happens. If you see that there are no green cards in here that have been signed by people receiving the certified mail, that very often those properties will go to the tax sale. That pretty well covers it, and one of the most important things we need to do now is actually go out and physically look at these properties that we just went through the files on. Okay, let's look at another property. Let's just go directly to the property appraiser's website on this one and click on the land use code, and we see that it is residential vacant land, single family platted. So we'll go back to the main website here, and we have the owner's name, and the owner is in New York, so it's not a local owner at all. On the acreage code, it says it's 2.5 acres, and it gives a land value of $95,000, and that's the 2008 value. Now, don't take this as gospel, because land values and property values change over time, and they can change dramatically over time when you have big changes in the economy. So this may or may not reflect current reality. So that's part of your research, is to determine what properties are really selling for now in today's market, so that you don't bid too much at the tax sale. And we see that in 2003 was the last time this property changed hands, and it sold for $52,900 through a warranty deed, and was sold as vacant land. So before ever going out there, we know that we can expect to see just a vacant lot rather than a piece of land with a house on it. So we can go here to the map section, and it brings up information of where this property is, and we can zoom in and out on this thing. So you zoom in real close, and that's helpful, especially if you bring up the aerial photograph of it. And you can see that you can see a property next door to it. It looks like a garage or something, a shed, and it's just vacant land. It's just as it was described. And if you zoom out some, zoom out a few notches, and actually zoomed out too much because it doesn't show the aerial photograph anymore. All right, let's zoom out a little bit here, and this will give you a better idea of the neighborhood. So this looks like kind of at the edge of the suburb, sort of a rural area, because these are everything's on large lots, and so you see that some of the lots have been sold and developed, and others have not. And one thing you can do with these types of maps very often, let's go back to the regular view, and let's just select the property next door to it. So now you see that this one is selected instead of the original one. And there's a property identifier here, and it tells you the property address here. And let's click on it and bring up some information about this property. And you see that it's worth over $400,000. So there must be a nice house on this piece of land. It's 5 acres, so it's twice as big as the lot that's in the tax sale. But you have a large market value, so that indicates that this is a good area, that the people are putting nice houses up. It's not, it's not an area where they're putting up cheap homes or mobile homes or whatever. So once again, we've learned a great deal of information about this property just through our basic research online. And let's see if we can bring that property up in Google Maps. So we'll just copy and paste into Google Maps. And it has maps, but it doesn't have photos, so it's not going to be very useful this time around. This particular piece of property is approximately 2.5 acres vacant land in a decent rural neighborhood, and it's a type of property that I would personally be interested in. It's just a nice piece of land. You know, I'd want to check and make sure that it is buildable and not too wet or anything like that. But we got paved road, good services, nice houses in the area. You know, right off the top of my head, I don't see anything wrong with this particular piece of land. Okay, let's look at one more property. And this is a 22-acre piece of land. So 22 acres, that sounds pretty exciting. That might be worth a whole lot of money. But let's look over here. Assessed value $11,300. Now, that doesn't seem like a whole lot of money for a big piece of land, does it? So to me right away, that indicates that there may be something about that property that makes it less than valuable, not real useful to me. Let's see if we can glean anything from the code. It just says single family platted vacant residential land, so that doesn't really help a whole lot. And here's something to look out for. It says that the property sold for $160,000 a number of years ago, but this code here indicates that was only that was a larger parcel. So PT, part, multiple parcels included in deed. So that means that $160,000 was actually spent on more than the parcel we're looking at. So that's something to watch out for when you're looking at previous sales, is that the dollar amount may not necessarily match the current parcel that you're looking at. So let's take a look at the maps of it. And from the map you think, well, maybe this is underassessed. Maybe it's a really valuable piece of land. It looks like it's got houses all around it. And gee, that might be worth millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars instead of that $11,000. So let's bring up the aerial photo on it. And now you see it looks like some really low ground just from my looking at it. And you can see some water here. And they seem to have developed it in such a way, developed around it in such a manner as to isolate this land. And so to me, I would need to do a whole lot of research on it to see if maybe it was some kind of wetlands set aside. Part of the agreement for subdividing this area was to leave some land untouched to where it cannot be developed. Sometimes there are restrictions on pieces of land to where it's no bargain at all to pick it up cheap. So you might end up buying this property at the tax sale and then not being able to do anything with it, or not being able to do what you think you want to with it. You know, the big red flag for me is that a large piece of land so close to a development that is only assessed at $500 per acre. There's something about that I would certainly want to dig into before I spend any money on it. Here's a plat of the parcel, and so where the dashed lines are here, it shows that it is just a piece of acreage, and you can see the street names, and so this will help you actually physically find the property. And so you see it's adjacent to what appears to be a developed area. Now you'd have to actually go out there and make sure that the streets are actually in. This is a real live development, not just something that's been platted out. Here's a warranty deed. So it shows the last transaction on the property, who sold it, who bought it. So that's useful information. Here's a title search, and it shows the title holder of the property, the current owner. and then it says that there are no liens that were found against that property. This is a check made out to the sheriff's department, so that indicates that the sheriff was paid to post the property or give legal notice to someone involved with that property. And now we get into the certified letters. So the certified mail was sent out to all interested parties with this property. The title search already indicated that there weren't any liens against the property, so the letters just went out to any addresses they had on file for the owners of the property. So we see from this file here, this particular letter was returned undeliverable. But you see here that there was another letter sent out that was signed for. So we know that at least someone received notice on that property. And from an investor's point of view, frequently that will indicate that the property will actually redeem. That happens in a lot of cases. Sometimes if everything comes back as totally undeliverable, then everybody has disappeared without a forwarding address, and so the property will get sold at the tax sale. Frequently when someone does sign for a property, they will end up redeeming it, but that's not always the case. Here's a sheriff's affidavit of service, and so that goes back to that copy of the check that we saw a while ago, showing that the sheriff did go out there and post the property. And that's about it for this file. So that's part of the research process of what we're trying to find out about this individual property, and we'll find out other information from other sources on the same property, and we'll also go look at it and lay our eyes on it and see what's really out there. And those are all really important steps along the way. You have to do all of that. We're standing at the west edge of the 22-acre piece of land, and as you look at it, you see that it's got a series of ponds and then high ground. There's a possibility that this was an area where the land was dredged for fill material, maybe for building the subdivision. It appears to have houses all around it. And so this would be a parcel you need to be really careful about in deciding whether to bid on it, because it has a relatively low assessed value, and it may have one for a reason. It may not be usable land. It may just be what was left over when this area was developed, and whoever was holding onto the land simply quit paying the taxes on it. So just because the records show a very large piece of land and you think you can get it cheap, it may or may not be a piece of land that you actually want to own. So this would be a case where you'd want to do a lot more research before you actually made a bid on the piece of land and became the owner of it. Shows an opening bid of $5,020 and some change. Let's click on it and find out some information about it. And we'll go straight to the property appraiser's tax page on it. Let's try the land use code first, and it shows that it's a manufactured housing code. It has a market value of $48,900, and it sits on a small lot. It's 0.17 acre. The owners live out of state, and we can see that the land has changed hands a few times, most recently in 2000 for a price of $18,000. It shows 728 square feet, and that's a mobile home, remember, so this is nothing fancy. Let's take a look at the map. It shows where the property is. It gives the name of the road that it sits on, and we can also look at the aerial photograph. If you look carefully at it, it appears, most of these properties that you see around here are boxy looking, so that would indicate that everything in here is mobile homes. So this is probably a development where it's inexpensive properties where everything in the area is mobile homes. So if you're interested in buying a property like that at a tax sale, it's not going to be an extremely valuable one or one that's going to have a real high resale value. So the market value of $48,900, that might be a little bit high, and that's one that we take a close look at, drive out there and take a look at it and see if we really are interested in this one. Let's take a look at another one. And this one, it gives a street address on Roosevelt Avenue. Let's look at this land use code here, code 414, and see what that means. Okay, it shows it as being a condominium unit. So that could be interesting. Let's dig into it a little bit further. It shows that the owner of record is a corporation that's based in New York. Market value of just under $90,000 for this property. And looking at the previous sales, it sold in 2004 for an amount of $53,000. So that's quite a bit under what they're saying it's worth now. But that kind of gives you an idea of the range there of what this property might be worth. So let's take a look at the map on this one. And it shows it as being a long area there, but if you bring up, let's zoom in a little bit here, and bring up the aerial view of it. And so it actually shows that lot has 6 buildings in it. So these buildings have been converted into condominiums, and so one portion of one of these buildings is actually what's in the tax sale. So you're not getting the entire property, you're getting a portion of it. And I wanted to scroll over here just to show you something interesting too. For location, there's the beach. So it's not oceanfront property, but it's a property that's close enough to the ocean that you could walk to it. So that would make it more desirable to a lot of people. Let's go on back to the tax assessor's appraisers page, and once again it's shown as being worth about $90,000. And let's get some details about the property itself here. So it's a concrete block type of building, and remember there's 6 buildings on the premises. Year built 1963, so this is going to be an older, modest thing. It's not going to be a fancy condominium place. It's 24 units, so that would indicate that each of those 6 buildings has 4 units in it. So you'd be getting 1/4 of one of those buildings. And even if you wanted to know how many parking spaces there are, there's 36. So each person gets 1.5 parking spaces, basically, is what it comes down to. So there's some good information on that property, and that would be one to go out and take a good look at, see what the neighborhood's like, and see if that's one that you're interested in bidding on. All right, this property is described as a condominium, and if you look at the area, you see it's a mix of different uses. There's some nice properties, and then there's older properties. This particular condominium is in a set of one of 6 buildings. Probably was an apartment building once upon a time. According to the tax assessor's office, was built in 1963. So it's an older, modest building, but it has a relatively low opening bid on it. And you can see it's an accessible unit. It's the corner unit behind me. And so it's not like when you think of condos, lots of times you think of multi-story buildings that are hard to get into and so on. So this is more like an old-style hotel or apartment building. But this is certainly one worth looking at. Off to my left is the main drag, and there's businesses up and down there. There's a muffler shop and a U-Haul place, businesses like that. But going off in the other direction, it's not very far at all to the beach. Here's one with an opening bid of over $43,000. Let's talk a minute just about opening bids in Florida. If a property has a homestead exemption on it, the way the bidding structure is set up in Florida, now this does not apply to other states. You'll find in many instances that states have unique rules that don't apply to other states. And one thing that Florida does, if the owners are living in the property and they've applied for a homestead exemption, the opening bid on a tax sale is going to be half of the market value plus the back taxes. And so when you go down the list here and you see opening bids, $5,000, $6,000, $8,000, and then all of a sudden you see one that's $43,000. Very often that can indicate that this will be a single family dwelling that is owner occupied. So let's click on it and let's see if we can verify those details. So this is one where it gives you a street address, use code here. Indeed, it's a single family residence. You can also note that the site address and the mailing address are the same. further looking at the market value and the assessed value, which there is a difference between the two here, but just below it, it says homestead exemption, $25,000. So that those pieces all fall into place as to why the opening bid on this property is as high as it is. It's not because there's $43,000 worth of back taxes. It's because it has a homestead exemption on it, and so the opening bid is simply set higher. And we can click on the map here and see where in the county it is. We got the street names around here, so you can find out where the property is. You can pull up an aerial photo of it, and it points right to the house, so you can get an idea of the surrounding homes in this area. And I brought up Google Maps on this one as well to get a street view of it, and so we can take a look at it here, and might be able to zoom in on it a little bit. And you zoom in on it, and you can see that it's not in the best repair. It looks like it's got some rotting wood and so on. So this kind of gives you an idea, and you can pan around and look at the other homes in the neighborhood and see it's, there's some nicer homes. There's a brick house across the street from it. So it's not a bad neighborhood by any means, but it looks like this particular house might be the ugliest house on the block. So it might be in more need of repair than any of the other homes around it. Okay, well, let's look at another one here. Bring it up here. This one also has a similar opening bid, $42,700. So it's just a few $100s less than the one that we just looked at. So let's click on it. And we see it also has that same use code of 110, which indicates that it's a single-family residence. So let's take a look at it. It does show the same address for the site address and for the mailing address, which would indicate it's owner-occupied. Again, there's a homestead exemption on it. And here the assessed value has not caught up with what they say the market value is. There's a big difference between the two. And so that's, for that reason, the opening bid at the tax sale is just a little more than half of what this amount is, whereas they're saying that the market value is quite a bit more. So $181,000 market value as of 2008, which has probably changed a fair amount since then. And we see that they paid $93,000 for the house in 1995, and 4 years prior to that, someone paid $88,000 for it. And we see the house was built in 1965, and it has about 1,700 square feet in it. And let's put this one into Google Maps and just compare it with the house before. Since they're so similar in the opening bids, let's see if the properties themselves are that similar. And this one looks quite a bit nicer. It's got a brick front to it, and look at those big spreading live oak trees. It looks like a very pleasant neighborhood. Let's look across the street. There's a nice looking house. There's another nice looking home. So just on the basis of what we can see from our basic research, we have two properties that we've looked at that have almost identical opening bids, and I would be a lot more interested in an opening bid of around $43,000 on this house than I would be on the one prior to it. But once again, you'd want to physically go look at it, because you don't know the date when these photos were taken. Something might have changed to either one of those properties to either increase or decrease the value of the property. So this house might look really good right now, but we don't know whether it's burned to the ground since the pictures are taken. That's why we always go out and look at the properties. This one here, which has an opening bid of a little bit over $8,000. Let's bring up the property appraiser's website on that one. And we have a use code of 10 here. So it's not single family, it's something else. So it's vacant residential land. It's what it's described at. go on down here. It gives it a market value and assessed value of $151,000, and it shows that it's more than 5 acres of land. So this could be interesting. And we can see that it sold in 2004 for an amount of $65,000, and the V code indicates again that it is vacant land rather than improved property. And we can look at the map and find out the approximate location of where it is. And this happens to be up at the north end of the county, kind of out in the country a little bit. And there's some interesting things about this if you bring up the aerial photograph. So let's do that. And you can see where the outline was on the previous map. The property runs approximately in this fashion. And so it's just all kind of overgrown land. It has some trees and bushes on it. But I wanted to show you some other things about it too, is that one of the powerful things about using aerial photographs is that you can see what some of the adjacent lands are like. And this happens to be a busy highway right here, and it's got a salvage yard just a short distance away from our subject property. And so you can see all the old rusting cars out there in that salvage yard. And then there's some other kind of salvage or industrial type of use of this land here. But if you look off in the other direction, it's more of the rural landscape that you would expect in coastal Florida, with pasture land and home sites and so on. So this would be one where you'd want to take a good look at it and see whether the values of the countryside override the fact that it's so close to a salvage yard. We're at the northwest corner of a 5-acre piece of land that is referenced in the tax sale, and talk a little bit about how we located it. First of all, when you access the map online, it'll show a street intersection. It doesn't have a street number associated with it, but it's at the corner of Johns Road and Holland Drive. And so you come to this location, and from the maps you know that this is where the property begins and this is the northwest corner of it. And if you look at the land itself, it's just overgrown natural land. It has no improvements on it at this point. It's got pretty dense undergrowth, so it'd be really difficult to walk through and take a good look at. But you can drive on 2 different sides of it. You can drive along the north side and look at it. You can drive along the west side and do the same. And so that's just part of learning about the property, is just seeing what the property itself looks like and the properties around it. One thing I thought I'd point out too is that there is a for sale sign here, vacant land for sale, and obviously has not sold yet because the property is up for the tax sale. There's a chance still that it might redeem. Some interested party may still come and redeem it, but there are some clues about the ownership and the fact that someone is trying to sell it. Here's an example of how we research a tax sale in the state of Washington. I've pulled up the treasurer's page for Spokane County, and so it looks like this. And one thing that you want to know if you're dealing with tax sales in Washington is that it's the county treasurer that conducts a tax sale, and they refer to the tax sale as a foreclosure sale. So when you're looking for their links on their website, you come in down here and you see foreclosures. And so in this case, it's not dealing with mortgage foreclosures. You're actually dealing with tax foreclosures. So let's click on that link, and you can bring up tax foreclosure information, parcels in foreclosure. Let's bring this one up. Let's select one that actually has a street address. And this is not a clickable link here. But what we can do is we can copy and paste it. So I've highlighted it and just do a right click and say copy. Let's go back to the treasurer's website, and they have a neat little feature up here that says jump to. And you can jump to the assessor's website And right here at the very top of the left side, just below their pictures, you have a parcel search, and you can enter the parcel number, so we'll simply paste that number so we don't have to type it again. Hit go. And very often, a lot of the counties have an agreement page where it's just the legal boilerplate where you're agreeing that the information that they provide may contain errors and that you will not hold them responsible if there are any errors. So you always just have to say, I agree. Here it is. You got your street address. It even has the date that the digital photo was taken, so that's helpful. This was taken in 2003, so you know that some time has elapsed since the photo was taken. You know, it has the owner information, the address, and those addresses are the same, so that would indicate that this is an owner-occupied piece of land. And it has some graphs and charts in here that may or may not be useful. Annual taxes, how much they've risen or fallen, how much the assessed value has changed over time. Interestingly, this says that this house was built in 1898. So if you buy this property at a tax sale, you might anticipate there would be a few repairs to be made. Small house, 700 square feet. There's a history of the assessed value of it. So from 2001, it went from a taxable value of $33,600 to a 2009 taxable value of $78,700. Has no active exemptions, and then has a breakdown of taxes, which doesn't really interest us all that much. So one of the neat things about this website is that it does have the physical pictures of the property and the date that photo was taken, so that you're not having to go off to other websites to try to get images of that property. And you can also click over here and get parcel maps and aerial photography. All right, well, let's do one more. And this is another one. It has an opening bid of $6,500, and it gives a street address which indicates that there's likely to be a house on it. So let's just see what's there. So once again, we'll copy and paste that information into the search engine. And this is the tax assessor's site. And so it brings up a photo that was taken in January of 2004, and it just shows a neat little house, basically, in an older neighborhood. The property address and the mailing address are the same, so once again, it looks like it's an owner-occupied structure. Annual taxes have ranged from $600 up to $1,100 per year. And this was a home that was built, according to the assessor's information, was built in 1926. And small house. It has less than 600 square feet of living area. And we see the taxable value is currently $71,400. A few years ago, it was in the $40,000 range. This would be an interesting property to look at based on what the opening bid is and what the assessed value is. And just looking at the street view, it seems like a decent enough house. So that would be one to take a look at and see if it's worth bidding on. Let's take a look at Maricopa County, Arizona, and that encompasses the Phoenix metro area. Now, Arizona is a tax lien state, and so you're bidding on the property as a priority lien against the property with an interest rate that starts at 16%. And if you're the only bidder on that particular property, you will get a 16% interest rate. If other people want that same tax lien certificate, you have to bid against them, and whoever bids the lowest interest rate ends up with that tax certificate. And Maricopa County, until recently, had their auctions just on the premises of the county courthouse, but recently they've gone to an online auction format. But I've chosen this one anyway because they have a good website with a lot of information on it, and a lot of people do bid in Maricopa County. There's thousands of tax liens come up every year. The tax lien sales are held in February. The entire state of Arizona, each county has their sale sometime during the month of February. This is the main page for Maricopa County, and we're looking for tax sale information. So if we go on down the list of choices here we got tax information. So let's give that a try. And it takes you to the treasurer's office. And here you go, 2009 tax lien sale. That might be what we're looking for, huh? Let's give that a try. Okay, so we've been brought to the tax lien certificate, the auction website, and there's some tabs we can click here. So there's one that's an introduction, and so it says Maricopa County 2009 tax lien sale, and it gives you all kind of information on how to bid, how to be eligible to bid, the forms you have to have ready, the fact you do have to register, you have to have a bidder number. And so these are all things that are worth reading through before you start bidding, and also before you pick up the phone and call them. They've put all this information online for your convenience so that you can go through all these frequently asked questions. When are the property taxes due in Arizona? When do they become delinquent? If one bidder wants to purchase for several buyers, how is this handled? How does the bidding proceed? What is an internet auction? You've got all these questions here, and further down the page they have the answers to all of them. So that's a good resource, especially if you're a beginner, just to go through all these frequently asked questions, and that'll make you a great deal more knowledgeable about how the whole tax lien sale process works in the state of Arizona. And then documentation. I was looking to see if maybe the actual list of properties was here, but I don't think it is. But again, there would be more information that you could gather by reading through those. And then in order to bid at the online sale, you have to register. So you'd click this link here, and you'd register and set up a user ID and a password, and that would get you ready to actually bid at the upcoming tax sale. Let's look at a couple other things here. One interesting feature that Maricopa County has is you can click on this link here, which is parcels with overdue taxes. And so presumably these would be parcels that would come up at the tax sale, and they have a disclaimer that you have to say yes to. So if you click on that tab for parcels with overdue taxes, it actually brings up a map of the entire county. And what you want to do, you can select this icon right here, which is zoom in, and then you can draw a box around an area that you want to highlight. And let's just randomly select a portion of the county. And you see all these orange splotches here. Those are parcels that have back taxes on them. And so you can keep zooming in until you find parcels that you can identify. So let's look at some of these, and I have no prior knowledge about any of these. I've just randomly chosen them from an area of the county. And what I think I'll do is, this icon here is your selection tool. And so all you have to do is point at one of the parcels and click on it. And over here on the side, it brings up information about the property. And so you have general data, valuation data, property data. So in the general tab here, it has a legal description of it, owner name, and not much else. So let's go to the valuation tab. And we see that it's a piece of property that has a value listed of $209,000. So there may very well be a house on it. Let's look at one more that's in the same vicinity. So we'll use the selection tool again so that we can click on this parcel, and it will display the information off to the side about that particular piece of land. And this is one where it shows a current value of $96,000. And it's kind of fluctuated up and down. It was $51,000 in 2007, then it went to $144,000, and then it went to $96,000. And some general information, legal description of the property, owner's name, mailing address, and so on. And one feature they have here is that you can click on the View Tax Information, and it'll bring up a separate window where it will tell you the amount of back taxes that are due year by year. And so there's a lot of good information available on this website. You just need to sit down and go through all the different opportunities that are there and find out which ones are most useful to you. And as you're researching for the upcoming lien sale, you can gather a lot of information about the properties from the comfort of your own home. So just to wrap up, there are numerous county websites spread across the country. It hasn't reached the point yet to where every county has a useful website, but many of them do. Some of them are a lot more useful than others. Some are easy to navigate in, some are more difficult. Some have very good information, some have more marginal information. But what you'll find is through a combination of using the websites and information that's ascertained directly at the courthouse, and then by traveling around and physically looking at the properties, through that combination of efforts, you can get some very good information and make some very intelligent bids when it comes to actually bidding at the tax sales. So go out there, have fun, and be successful.